Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mama Jack podcast. Today, we will go into some of my healing after the years of postpartum depression leading up to my mental breakdown, the years of depression and anxiety before that, all the traumas that I've gone through, the PTSD I went through, and what my journey looks like through that. Now, I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am just simply here to give you my story and my tools. And maybe listening to it will help you. Maybe some of the tools I use are things that you've never heard of that can help you. Or maybe you're just interested to see, what my self healing journey has looked like. And I am still working on myself every day. It's an everyday thing. Pretty much every day, every hour, every minute, sometimes every second. Okay, so you learned in my mental breakdown podcast, which was the last one, a little bit about the day that it all started. So I said, my kid got sick. My anxiety built that night. The next day, my husband worked. My anxiety built more. The third day is when I finally cracked. Okay. That day, I ended up texting a crisis line. I didn't call one. I felt like I didn't know what else to do at that point. Like I had no help. My husband was at work. I didn't know what else to do. They gave me tools along with a friend that's a life coach that she had already given me some of these tools, but they were not helpful at the time because mentally my brain was just still spinning so much. It helped to hear because I believe they don't tell you anything about themselves, but the way I was talking about my children and what was going on, I believe this person was a parent and it did make me feel less alone at the time. I tried to call my psychologist to get an immediate appointment, but they couldn't see me till Monday. So until then, I pretty much hid in my room. I tried to come out, but when I would come out and the kids would get close, I would panic and get super overstimulated and have to run right back into my room. My husband made me a nail appointment. It was my birthday the next week. So he made me a nail appointment. I got to have my nails done for my birthday, which was great. We ended up going out to dinner for my birthday too. But before that, I got a hold of my psychologist. We started breaking everything down, all of what I was feeling through my son being sick to my children and how they're all responses to trauma and PTSD and years of shoveling it under the rug, which is weird because, like I said, I told everybody about everything, but I wasn't dealing with the issues. I thought venting was dealing with it, but I learned through this journey, you have to dive deep to actually get to the root of those problems, to give yourself some grace to go through those problems. So I talked to my psychologist. That's when she told me I need to find a psychiatrist that day or the next. If it gets any worse, go to the ER, find an inpatient if I can't find a psychiatrist. So I, thank the Lord, found a psychiatrist, but that was not an easy journey, let me tell you. I called maybe 10, 12 different places. They all were booked for months out, anywhere that my insurance covered. She sent me a full list of people that they worked with, and I just went down the list calling everybody. The one person that could see me didn't take insurance, so I was trying to get it covered by insurance, but that just didn't seem to happen. One of the places I called, actually laughed. I was like, I really need this appointment, or my psychologist says I should go to inpatient, and I really don't want to have to do that. Is there any like emergency way I could get in? And they were like, you have to go to the ER. And I was like, well, I really need an appointment soon. And she giggled. I'm not joking. She giggled and said, well, good luck trying to find any psychiatrist that can take you the same day or the next. So imagine being a woman going through a mental breakdown and all of this stuff. It's already so annoying to get a hold of people just to get yourself help. Like most people, I feel like, don't get the help because they're so depressed and they're so in their hole that they try and things like this happen and then they stop. It was desperation for me. I called back the person that was not covered by my insurance, and she could see me the next day. When I talked to my psychiatrist the next day, it was a very humbling experience. I had to go relive everything all over again, tell her about my anxiety, my PTSD, my trauma, my postpartum depression, how I felt about myself inside, my suicidal ideation, all of this stuff. And I also had to tell her, which I think I keep missing this in the story, but I told you guys I was super sensitive to hormones, right? Obviously, postpartum depression can be from hormone fluctuation and everything. So I had been having trouble with ovulation, and I went to my gynecologist, and they gave me birth control to get on, but a very low dose because they knew, like I explained to them, I was super sensitive to hormones and I was weaning and blah, blah, blah. They said it might help balance it out. So I started taking the birth control. By the second day, I started to feel anxious. The third day is when my son got sick. And the fourth day, anxiety, fifth day, anxiety. And then I called them to be like, should I stop taking this? Because originally I thought it was just the birth control. That's also why I waited a little bit before I called my psychologist for another appointment, because I thought maybe it would leave my system and I would be feeling better, but it didn't get better, right? It got worse. So I told her all about that. She put me on medication right away. I've been very open. I'm on Klonopin and Celexa. Okay. I had been fighting taking medication for a long time, but with the helplessness inside of me, I knew there was no other choice out at that point. I had all the tools, I was using all the tools, and they were not working. So I needed something to chemically help me at that point. Okay. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not promoting medication. I'm just saying for my journey, this is where I needed to be. I needed to have a tool. One of my tools was my medication to level me out so I could start using all of my other tools and having them work again. I saw my psychologist the next day because she wanted to see me again to see, if I had seen a psychiatrist, what my plan was. And, I got the information about everything. I asked both of them because I had planned a mother's retreat months before. Like, should I even go? Like, is this horrible for me? They both said, yes, absolutely go. Like, you're afraid to be in your house right now. Absolutely go. Talking to my psychologist is when she said, you're afraid of your kids. Like, being at home right now isn't your safe place. So I went and I left. And I went and I met a bunch of women I had been talking to for months and months on that Peanut app. Like I said, I run a pod called Good Morning Mamas. And it was like meeting sisters. And when I walked into the house that we were having it at, it was like I instantly felt like I could be me in this space. Now, I was drugged, right? I had just started taking this medication. So I don't know if it was a little bit of that or what, but spiritually, I don't know what it was. Like the energy there was just incredible, incredible. And it was like the perfect time for me to get away. Like it couldn't have been at a more perfect time because I needed to leave my house and I needed to have time for myself. And part of that weekend, I had a lot of time for myself. Leading up to that weekend, I had as much rest as I could have. My husband completely took over the kids, and he had a job outside of the state when I got back. So my mother was flying out the day I was flying back. Well, she was flying into Georgia the day I was flying back into Georgia as well, so she could help me with the kids since I wasn't supposed to be alone with them quite yet. But back to the retreat. We did all of these activities. One in particular was an activity where you wrote down your insecurity. Okay. And it was kind of a spiritual retreat. I can go into that in further detail. I will go into that in further detail. Whether you guys think I'm crazy or not, I'll still go into it. But Nicole, which was the person putting it on, Nicole Hennessy, she's on TikTok, she's on Instagram. You can look her up. She is a great life coach. She's one of my great friends. We did this activity with insecurity. So you write down your insecurity, and then you're supposed to think of ways that you can actually use it to your benefit. Now, before the retreat, I had been documenting all of my healing journey on TikTok. I thought about a podcast. Actually, I thought about a podcast like a long time ago. It's just like, what do I do it on? Like, yeah, I'm a mom, but my kids are young, blah, 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 whatever. So, like, I thought about it, but it was like, not even a thought in my head at that point. For me, it was just journaling on TikTok, seeing if other moms could see, maybe, help me out, or I can help somebody else out that's in the same situation. So for my insecurity in this activity, I wrote anxiety, depression, and my mental breakdown was my insecurity. And she looked around and she's like, does anybody need help coming up with something to turn it in for good? And I said, me. I said, I don't know what the hell could be good about this right now. Like, it's taken over my life. It's literally my demon in my life, and I don't know what could be good about it. So she had oracle cards left out, and I believe like oracle cards are really good for inspiration, regardless if you believe in like the whole spirituality thing or what. Like, if you get an oracle reading, it can be very motivational. Like, a lot of the cards are very motivational, and it is beautiful. So I was like, what the hell? What do I have to lose? I'll pick a card. The card I picked was called the Priestess, and I will read it to you. Okay, so the Priestess, how are you being called to step up and lead? This is what the description is in the little book that comes with the oracle cards. She's like, oh, look it up, see what it says. The Priestess is a teacher dedicated to service, freedom, and leadership. You don't need to have it all together to lead. In fact, it helps if you don't. No one wants a perfect angel who hasn't made any mistakes. Let your life be your message. Don't underestimate the power of sharing your story. It's by hearing someone else's journey that we feel less alone. We realize that we're actually all in this thing called life together. The difference between a follower and a leader is that a leader has the courage to go first in stepping out. They shine a light on the path for others to venture forward too. Don't fret too much about trying to work out who is in your tribe. Don't get stuck in age, income, hobbies, or occupation. The best way to discover your tribe is to look in the mirror. If you feel called to lead, chances are it is because at some point of your life you longed for someone to lead you. Your tribe are longing for exactly the same thing as you were and are, and might only be one step behind you. Hell, they may even be right alongside you. You don't need anyone's permission, just courage to stand up. Embrace your struggles, the peaks, and the troughs. You don't need to know the way. Just believe that there might be a different one. Your tribe is waiting for you. Step forward so they can find you. And then it says, work your light inquiry. How are you being called to step up and lead? How can you be the leader you wish you had? Which is insane, right? Like, I'm making this podcast. I had a thought about making the podcast a long time ago, and I had already been putting it on TikTok, and that was confirmation to do this. That's literally the reason why I stepped forward to do this and started taking notes on it and started doing everything I am doing now, is because of that card. That's what I mean about how inspirational it can be. The women on that retreat were just also beautiful and also kind, and we were by the ocean, and my main picture is a picture of me at the retreat. One morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I watched the sunrise, and I decided to sit on the beach and watch the sunrise. I'm a water person. I love the beach. It's one of my favorite places. No matter what beach it is, I just feel connected to it. Like, water is just great for me and healing. So we had a lot of relaxation. We had massages. There was a psychic medium that we could do. What else? A lot of just fun activities. The one that meant the most to me and what I continue to do today was an inner child meditation. And I don't know if any of you have done inner child work. It tends to be very hard and difficult. It brings up a lot of stuff from your past. Sometimes, like me, if you would have asked me, I had a great childhood. I had a great childhood. Grew up, middle class family, was in sports, was a little baton twirler pageant princess, was a cheerleader. There was nothing like wrong with my childhood. But as I do this work, I'm connecting pieces why I am where I'm at today. So before the retreat, Nicole had us send pictures of ourselves as little girls. I sent her a picture of me fishing. I had like a fish in my hand. I was like 3 or 4 years old. So when we started the inner child work, I thought that's the inner child that would pop up. I'm not going to give out the way she does it because every people do it different, but also like you need to see Nicole if you want that inner child meditation from her. So who popped up was first grade me. I remember the picture distinctly. I was wearing this pink and white polka dotted dress. The sleeves were white with pink polka dots. It had a big bow on it. I had a matching headband. And it was very interesting because I was like, oh, I thought that little girl would pop up, but I'm a little older. So, you know, you embrace most of them, you embrace your inner child. This one was kind of like a release of negativity type thing. There are other versions that I do that are more of like asking your inner child what you need. I absolutely recommend inner child work for anybody with anxiety, depression, PTSD. It is hard work and you're going to learn a lot about yourself though. And I feel like learning that about yourself is where you can truly heal. You can forgive things in your past. You can understand why you're acting certain ways you are now. So, first grade me, okay? That's where my inner child work stopped. And we're going to hold on to that thought for a minute. So, the retreat ends. I fly back home. My mom flies back in. On the way back from the retreat, I had a quick appointment with my psychologist. She wanted to have a rundown of my life to see, when she compared notes with my psychiatrist, that she had everything she wanted to hit on. And she wasn't missing anything. So we started from, birth. What do you remember? What's the first memories? Well, in first grade, a family member of mine had a mental breakdown. And the way I coped with it was I didn't want to go to school. And when they would force me to go to school, because I was in first grade, I had to go to school, I would pretend to throw up to get out of class or actually make myself throw up to get out of class. My son, now thinking back on my mental breakdown, it was when he had the stomach flu, right? So all of these things are happening. I'm pushing everything down. I'm pushing everything down. My son gets the stomach flu. I always had this like weird phobia of throw up. And guess why? Because that was my first coping mechanism with one of the first traumas that happened in my life, finally linked together. So I started connecting dots. Went through my whole history, didn't realize like how much this family member actually, was sick. It was every couple years and it was very serious things. And I don't want to make this family member feel bad because I love them dearly. But as a child, it was a lot to deal with. For some reason, at 7, 8 years old, I thought I had to help heal them. Like I had to be there with them. Why couldn't I be there with them? With PTSD and the loss of control, that's where the mental breakdown came in. I'm like putting all these pieces together, right? So a day later or a couple days later, I had an appointment with my psychiatrist confirming, yes, yes, this. Everything looks right. Like the story you told me matches up with the story that your psychologist, we compared notes. We both agree on this. Officially diagnosed, which I kind of was before, with trauma, PTSD, postpartum depression, anxiety, and PMDD. That's a lot of crap to deal with. That's a lot of mental load. So, what do I do next? Well, my mom is here to help. She let me rest a lot. When I say my mother was a godsend at that moment, she was a godsend at that moment. She did mostly everything. And I am so grateful for that because I needed the rest. I needed the healing. I needed all of that time because I was still a little afraid of my children when I got back. I was able to hug them and kiss them. I couldn't be around them much though because of the overstimulation. It was a lot for me. I still had to work on myself a lot. So I started meditating every day, 10 minutes in the morning, and then I would journal. The journal started out with describing my day, describing what's going on. Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Do I feel sad? Do I feel like getting out of bed today? Um, some days I do motivational things. Some days I vent. Some days I write what I want. What do I want? One day I had a full page of everything I wanted. And I it's been so much help just getting it out. That honestly, the best day was after I wrote the what I want. It was almost like for me, like manifesting it. This is what I want. I'm basically saying I'm sick of something and this is what I need instead. I'm trying to not regain control, but like give it up, put it out there. This is what I need, right? Practicing self love, which can be hard for somebody that's been in depression for a long time. The way I did this was writing inspiring words to me on my mirror with dry erase marker, letting myself have some grace for what I just went through, for what I had been dealing with for a long time and hiding, giving myself the grace that I deserved, letting myself know how strong I was to go through this, and I'm still here. I didn't want to be here at a time, but my mind started to change. I had to change my inner monologue because we control our inner monologue. Remember when I said before, like, Jackie, what are you doing? How could you be messing this up? All of that stuff. Your bad thoughts, you're controlling. So when that starts, I try to shut it down. Jackie, this is not you. This is your depression. This is your anxiety. This is your postpartum depression. These are not your words. You need to be kinder to yourself. You need to get up. You need to do what you got to do to make yourself feel better. Some days I literally like shake my body, like shake it off. Just shake it, shake it, shake it. I just threw something on the ground by accident, shaking it here. Doing good things for others. I reached out to a lot of people I hadn't talked to in a long, long time. How are you doing? Being there for them as much as I could without being overstimulated. Because for a long time, I was still overstimulated. Even to this day, I still get overstimulated. I have to take a step back. I have to go breathe. That's another technique. Breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for 8. Repeat that a couple times. That's something that I do almost every day. So there are other breathing techniques as well. There's something called box breathing where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and you just keep repeating that. Other things that you can do, grounding techniques. What are 5 things you see? What are 4 things you can feel? What are 3 things you can hear? What are 2 things you can smell? What is 1 thing you can taste? So you're trying to get all of your senses involved to ground yourself. So another technique you can do is grab 2 ice cubes, throw them in your hands, and let the shock of the coldness will bring your mind to that. For me, that one didn't work so much, but I know for a lot of people, they do use that a lot. Movement, go for a jog. I know, for me, I literally would have to force myself to leave my damn house. And that's if I can, right? But movement has been shown to increase all of those good, hormones and chemicals in your body. Um, I need to get better at that again. I will fully admit that is the one thing I'm missing from my whole healing journey right now is movement. The movement I have is lugging my 30-pound kid up the stairs or dancing with them or whatever I can do in that department. I need to get better. I plan on doing yoga. I plan on doing HIIT classes. I just need to get my butt out there and motivate. So I'm still on my journey right now, guys. I'm still on my journey. I actually wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this, but a lot of people say that a healing journey can be better with a spiritual aspect. Now, I'm not promoting any type of religion. Spiritual just meaning a higher power of some sort. For me, I believe that there is something up there for us helping, looking over us through psychic readings I've had, through everything. I mean, I've seen as far as that side goes. I believe I have spirit guides that help me out. My PTSD, where it stems from, is a car accident I was in, and I'll give you a little story about that. So, one night, woke up, there was a woman standing next to my bed. I said, "What are you doing here?" And she looked so familiar, but I couldn't place her face. And when I said here, I looked back up like I had blinked and she was gone. A couple days later, I'm in a car with one of my friends. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so windy back roads. We were outside of the city. She started to lose control of her car. I felt this rush of calm come over my body. And it was literally like somebody was whispering in my ear, "Everything will be okay," and holding me. And in that accident, somehow I found a cell phone. I called 911. They had to trace the cell phone to find out where we were. A volunteer fire person stopped there. The car was on fire. I thought it was steam. I ended up passing out on the phone call with 911. They didn't have a fire extinguisher. Another car stopped and put out the fire. Never knew this person. Probably will never ever know this person. We should not be here today. There was a lot going against us. That week, I was actually signing up to go to beauty school in Pittsburgh. I wanted to do hair. So after this, I, you know, went into the hospital. I was having flashbacks, the whole PTSD thing. I ended up getting a settlement and it sent me to the place I've always wanted to go, Los Angeles, California. I 100% believe. I used to say it was my grandma and grandfather looking after me. Now I know it doesn't even have to be that. It could be anybody. It could be them. It could be whoever. That's kind of just what I believe. So through my meditation and everything, I feel like it's nice to give your things that are happening bad in your life, give it up to the person looking out for you or the spirit looking out for you. regardless of what you believe in. Let it go. That's what they're there for, to help you with this stuff. If that means praying, pray. If that means going to church, go to church. If that means going for a run, I used to do this thing that might seem silly to a bunch of people, but I used to do Orange Theory Fitness, and in that you do some running or you can do a bike. I would run my heart out, and I used to tell my mom, because my mom was actually sick at the time, I would Care Bear stare to her. So as I felt my heart, your heart almost gets like, that feeling when you're like super into cardio and your heart is like almost like giving up. But in Orange Theory, you see your heart rate. So you see, like, I'm doing okay. I can push a little harder. I can stay here a little longer. So I would physically send that energy that I was working at and work so hard, telling her I'm Care Bear staring her the health and the healing that she needs from this treadmill right now. But that was part of a healing process as well, right? Anything you can do to help yourself. If that's time away, if that's going for a walk alone, if that's just showering by yourself and clearing your mind. Meditation, I cannot express enough to you the act of clearing your mind. And let me tell you, that's been very hard for me lately. I find the only place I meditate that I can fully clear my mind is my shower, which my husband's always like, "You're in the shower forever." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm meditating, dude. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I'm sorry." In the morning, I try to meditate now for 20 minutes. I went up to, it's really hard for me. My brain goes everywhere. Like, I found this AI page on Instagram, and it has these like beautiful images of like these pink and purple and turquoise and blue waterfalls or like clouds or like a cabin in the woods, all these flowers. And so what has helped me is going through all of my senses and imagining something like that. So my brain is not focusing on what am I doing today? What appointment do I have to make today? Do I feel like crap today? Do I feel okay today? Like, what's going on with me today? Blah, 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 blah. Like, my son has this, my daughter has this. Is my husband going to be okay? Is he working today? Is he not? Like, all the thoughts. Okay. So I imagine myself in this beautiful place. What does it look like? Look to your right, look to your left, and imagine all of this stuff. Okay. Imagine you're in your safest place. Okay. And this is just how I do it. Okay. I'm just trying to give maybe a solution to people like me who start to meditate and their brain goes so much that this is a way I can focus on something other than what is going back and forth in my mind. Okay. And I promise you, after you're done meditating, you're not going to forget to make that appointment. You're not going to forget to pack that lunch. You're not going to forget anything you were thinking about prior. So I imagine myself in this beautiful place. What does it look like? What does it feel? Is it warm? Let me go put my foot in the water if I'm at a waterfall. How does it feel? How does the water look? How do my feet look under the water? What does it smell like? The taste in the air. And I can tell you all these things afterwards. And my mind has gone to this beautiful place and I've finally settled those thoughts. Now, over time, I'm going to try to clear my mind enough that I can just sit in my own silence. But for now, this is how I'm at least getting myself out of those clusters of thoughts that keep going and going and going in my head that I cannot stop. So after a while, things started getting better with me and my children. I can be around them. I do get overstimulated a little easier than before, but I'm still working on that with my breathing and all of my techniques that I have described to you. It is an ever going process for me right now, and I'm fine with that because right now, where I'm at, I have come so far from that moment where I was so scared and so ready to not be here. And that was, I mean, almost 3 months ago now, like 2 months ago, actually, almost 3 months ago. Yeah. And I know this process is going to keep going. But self-love should happen all the time. And these little things are just part of self-love. I can be around my children more. I can see the beauty in them. The other day, my son, my husband's been putting him to sleep because I did that forever and it was a lot for me to do all the night things, and it was overstimulating, blah blah blah. So he's been putting him to bed every night he's home. And my son will come and he'll help me pick out pajamas. He's like all excited about it and like, "Mommy, I love you. I love you, Mommy. I love you." Well, the other night he's telling me this story and my heart just like opened up. Like it was like the Grinch. Like when they show the heart getting bigger and bigger, like I finally felt like I felt the love that he deserved to have. He's almost 3.5 years old. That made me feel so guilty, but so happy at the same time. I started to kick myself in the butt saying, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, what if I did something to him? And then I'm like, Jackie, you cannot fix the past. We learn from the past, right? This is where we're at now. And I'm looking at my son, my daughter, my husband in ways that I haven't felt in years. I didn't know my heart would ever get back there. Don't get me wrong, I still have hard days. Even this morning, I was having a hard morning. I asked my husband, how am I going to do this podcast on healing? Like, I feel like crap. But once I started to feel a little better. And I really hope that people can hear this and catch something from it. Like I said, even if it's, I don't feel alone. Like it is a process that we can do together. Like I said, reach out to me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, subscribe so you can hear more podcasts coming from me. This is an ever growing process that I'm going through. Possibly you're going through, somebody you love is going through. And we are in this together. I always say that. We're in this together. Okay. That's why I'm doing this, because I'm here for all of you. If you can't have your own voice and you feel like you can't share a lot of what's happened in your life, I can be that voice for you. I'm choosing to be vulnerable. I'm choosing to put my story out there. And I hope that you guys liked this podcast today of the start of my healing process. That's what I'll say, because there'll probably be a part 2. My next episode will be me interviewing my husband about my mental breakdown in the postpartum. So if you like this podcast, subscribe. And if you choose to donate, love you for that. I am a stay-at-home mama. Anything is appreciated. And if you can't, I still love you anyways. So everybody have a good day, and thank you for listening to the Mama Jack podcast.